Hey everyone, happy holidays and welcome to Diminished Tech. Today we're going to be doing the implementation of the TP-Link Omada products that we did an overview and unboxing last time. If this sounds interesting, please keep on watching the video, and if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and that pesky notification bell if you haven't already. Without further ado, let's get to it. So before we go into the video, let's talk about what we're going to be doing in part 1. So in part 1, all we're going to be really doing is, 1, getting the controller on the Omada online console. And then from there, we're going to be also adopting the different devices we have here, our switch, our router, and our AP into the console. And that's going to be doing for this first part. And the next part, we're going to be doing more. We're going to do more network segmentation and so forth. And in the last part, we're going to be doing the VPN. So let's get into part 1. So without further ado, let's go. The first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to be, registering our controller. And to do that, we're going to need to go on our internet browser. And for this instance, I'm going to use my Firefox browser. You can use anything like Google Chrome, Edge, or if you're still using Internet Explorer, of course. And the website we want to go to is omada.tplinkcloud.com. And what this website does is, this is where you're going to register your controller. And it's going to allow you that, online GUI to control everything that you have here for your home network. And if you haven't already, there is a sign up functionality here. So go ahead and sign up for an account so you can successfully register your device. For my instance, I already have one, so I'll go ahead and log in with my diminishedtech@gmail.com. And I'll put in my super secure password and log in. So when you log into your account, of course, you're not going to have any devices here because you haven't registered anything, correct? So the first thing you want to do is hit this add controller. And when you hit add controller, it's going to give you a couple options to register a controller, whether it be a cloud-based controller, a hardware controller like we have, or a software controller. The big difference between all three is cloud controller is, a cloud-based system that you have. Hardware controller is an actual physical device that you have. Like my OC200 here, that'll let you control all the different products that you have, your switch, your router, and so forth. And lastly, it's a software controller. And the software controller is a free option that you can go to TP-Link's website, which I'll have linked below. And it'll allow you to do all the same management that a traditional hardware controller has. But all that processing happens on a computer of your choice, whether that be the desktop you're working on, whether it be a desktop you have lying around or a laptop. The hardware doesn't really matter as long as it's sufficient enough to run the software on here. The only caveat is if that device goes down, then a lot of system processes such as DHCP and DNS and so forth that your network might need to route properly may not be accessible. In most cases, the APs for TP-Link will keep on working with the last configuration, but new devices that may join may have some issues. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's why I went with a hardware controller for that consideration. So the next thing we want to do is hit add here. And it'll come up with a warning. And this warning just tells us that, 1, you need to verify that your controller hardware has internet connection, right? And you can see that by this little blinking light. If it has an internet connection, it'll start blinking. So it'll go on and off. And that's a very subtle on and off function. And when I took to my left here, I can see that my device is doing it, so we can continue on. So the next thing we have here is a device key code that it's looking for. And what you can think of this device key is, it's more like your social security number, right? If you're here in the US, it's a identification number for that specific device. No other device will have that same one. And it's very important that you keep that hidden and you don't give it to other people, because if they have that number, they can try to, register it for their own, TP-Link account, and you may cause a lot of issues and they may be able to get into your network. For that reason, I'm not going to share mine, and I'll cut here and I'll input my device key, and then we can continue on with the implementation process. So I'll see you in a moment. All right, and we're back. So I just inputted my device key here. And once you successfully add it to your Omada cloud account, you should see this right here, this screen that just says that the control has been successfully added. So we're going to go ahead and hit done. So now that we're here, one of the great things about this online portal is it gives you a lot of great information just without having to go into the device itself. It gives you the IP address for your local network, and it gives you the model number, the MAC address, as well as the serial number. So if you ever have to do any troubleshooting with support, you're able to do so if the device is down, or you don't want to go to where your device location is. You can do it right from here. And it also gives you information such as the version number that it's on and the firmware build. So yeah, a lot of good information that you need right off the bat without having to physically go to where the device is. So the next thing we're going to do is going to hit launch. So this seems pretty simplistic, right? But we're gonna start, setting stuff up. So right here it's gonna say welcome to use Omada controller. So we'll hit let's get started. And it's gonna ask you for, the basic stuff, right? Create an administrator account for this controller. And we're gonna do that. And the admin name that I'm gonna use is called DT admin. And that's gonna stand for diminished tech admin. I'm going to use that diminished tech email, diminishedtech@gmail.com. I'm going to use a super secure password. I like that it says it's a high strength. I think those passwords, I'm going to go ahead and agree here and hit next. I think those passwords are the similar. All right, so the next thing it's going to be is you're going to rename your controller. And for this, I'm going to call it diminished home. And that's just going to signify that's my home controller. We are in the United States, of course. And when it comes to the time zone, I'm going to name mine Eastern time because that's where I am. And you want to make sure these are toggled on. So you want to make sure that you get updated when the controller has an update, as well as any other devices have updates. Now, this next one that you're going to have here is totally up to you. I don't like sending information to the manufacturer so they can improve stuff. I'm a little wary of what information they take. Sometimes they're not very forthcoming on what they are sending to themselves. So I'll just toggle that off. I'm not interested at the time. So the site name is going to be, we're going to name it DT main home. Just so we don't have the same thing, diminished home. We're just going to call it DT main home. We're going to say it's still in the United States. We're going to change this again to Eastern time. Hopefully I didn't miss it. I think I did probably. So we saw Central. There it is. If it was a bug, it would have hit me. Now it's going to be the next thing is going to be a device account. So this is going to be kind of a local account that you have on the device. I'm going to just call it power user. If I wanted to be extra safe, I would name it something different. But I think DT or power user is fine enough. And I'll give it a super secure password again. So the next thing is going to be an application scenario. And when you select this application scenario, it's going to help you kind of configure and optimize the network that you're going to be kind of setting up for this product. So it has a couple options here for hospitality, such as a hotel and a restaurant, more professional workspaces like an office, a factory, or educational purposes such as dormitories and campuses, and a slew of other things. But in this instance, we're going to use a home scenario. And as you can see here, it shows up with our EAP 650, which is our AP, the AX3000. Next is going to be our switch. And then lastly, it's going to be our 605 V2, which is our router. Of course, I want to adopt them all, so I'll select this and hit next. The next thing is going to be the WAN settings. And the thing about the WAN is, depending on how you have your ISP set up, it's going to really make a difference. And that main consideration is going to be do you have a residential or do you have a commercial LAN? Connection. In residential connections, usually you don't have the same IP forever. They usually change it up on you every once in a while. If you have a commercial, or I'm sorry, a business line, then most likely than not, your IP doesn't change at all. And that's because you may be running things such as a web server for your network traffic. I mean, not for your network traffic, for your web traffic. So if you have a website, you may need it to be static. So Google and so forth knows where to go to find your site. So that's one major consideration. So let's go ahead and configure the WAN. And the first thing you want to do is make sure you have the right gateway model. And this is really important because TP-Link Omada cannot, register the device properly if it doesn't have the right model. In this instance, I had the ER605V2, so we'll select that. If I had another one, I'd go down the list and find the one that's applicable for me. The next thing I want to do is make sure I'm doing the first one point. That's the only one that we're worried about right now because we only have one ISP or one internet connection. And I don't really care about this online detection interval. It could stay this one right here, custom 10 seconds. And we'll hit apply. So like I said, I'm going to just name it what my ISP is. So AT&T Internet. Apparently... leave it as that. So again, the connection type is going to be dynamic just because we don't have a static IP forever because we don't have a business line. It's a residential. So we'll keep dynamic. If you wanted to, we could do a static IP if we had that business line. If you wanted to use this as your modem, you could do that PPOE, I think, if I remember correctly. So yeah. The next one's going to be kind of important is if you want to include IPv6. This is going to be completely up to you, honestly. I'm never going to use that many IP like range. I'm not going to use that many IPs, so IPv6 is lost on me. However, if you're a network administrator and you're trying to get a little better idea of what IPv6 is all about, it's a good idea to go ahead and enable it and start tinkering around. For my implementation, like I said, I'm not going to use it, so I'll just forego enabling it. And then it's going to ask you, what do you want to do though with the MAC addresses? So do you want to use customized MAC addresses or do you want to use the default MAC addresses on your devices? I honestly am just going to use the default because I don't want to deal with trying to figure out MAC addresses for each of the devices. So we'll hit next. And this is going to be for configuring Wi-Fi. If you want to go ahead and create Wi-Fi SSID, you can do it here. But we're going to do it in the console itself. Just because it gives you a little bit more flexibility of adding multiple at one time. So I'm not going to do it here. And I'm going to do another cut here because the next summary page does reveal a couple of passwords. So I don't want to forget to blur them out or not blur them out the whole way. And you guys can see them. So we'll pause here. I'm not pause here. We'll do a quick jump to the next part so you guys can see. All right, I'll see you in a second. And we're back once again. So now that we have the controller fully integrated into the Omada online console, this is the overview that we get. So what this does is it gives you an overview of the different sites we may have. If you're using this for, a business purpose, so you may have different sites that need to be connected to one another, or if you're a consultant that does work for different companies and you need a single solution to manage all of them, this is exactly what you're looking for. And for our needs, I only have one site because it's my home. I'm not an enterprise solution. I don't have customers that I have to worry about. So that's why we only see one. And what this, control overview gives you is, number of sites we have, any gateways we may have, switches, access points, and clients that may be connected in one place. So for this instance, we're going to click on this DT home. And what this is going to do, it's going to bring up this controller, specifically this location, and let us administer all that stuff that's connected there. Hopefully it'll load here in a second. So now we're in the actual, switches, APs, and clients that I want to be managing. And one thing that we'll check real quick is the devices that we have. So right here, it looks like our router still hasn't successfully been adopted into our Omada infrastructure. So we'll click on it, and to adopt it, it's pretty simple. We just click on the device, we'll hit adopt, and it'll start doing its adopting process. So it'll hit start adopting, provisioning, and if essentially connecting it to our this site, I mean, and it's provisioning at the moment. And we should see it go to connected here in the next few seconds. Still provisioning. And now it's connected. So it's successfully added to our network controlled area. So that is good. So we've successfully added our controller to the Omada online console. We've added our devices underneath that controller. And now we're ready to start configuring our network. And at this point, we're done with the first part of this implementation, and that's just making sure that we get everything up and running. The next section, or second stage, is going to be actually start configuring things such as our SSIDs, any LANs that we want, or VLANs, I mean, and start segmenting our network how we want. So thanks so much for watching. If this video was interesting, please hit the like button. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and that pesky notification bell if you haven't already, so you don't miss any new videos that I might come out with. And I'll see you guys next time. Hasta luego. Bye.